When someone lies, it's rarely about the big things. It's the small, harmless ones that give them away. A word too careful, a tone too soft, a smile that doesn't reach the eyes. That's how it started for me, with a simple text. "Hey babe, just grabbing coffee with a friend. Be home soon." Hey everyone, I'm Henry, 28 years old, a graphic designer. And until a few months ago, I thought I understood love. Amelia and I had been together for almost 2 years. She was the kind of woman who made you believe in balance. Warm, funny, intelligent, and just unpredictable enough to keep things exciting. We met at a local art exhibition, fell in love over shared playlists, and moved in together after a year. Everything about her felt real, until that one message changed everything. It was a Tuesday evening. Nothing special, just another workday fading into the quiet hum of night. I'd just finished dinner alone, our usual pasta, the one she claimed only I could cook right. My phone buzzed on the counter and her name appeared on the screen. "Hey babe, just grabbing coffee with a friend. Be home soon." At first it didn't sound strange. Amelia often met her coworkers or old college friends for coffee after work. But something about that message made me pause. Maybe it was the full stop at the end. She never used punctuation in her texts. It was always quick and casual, emojis instead of periods. That dot felt heavy, final, almost rehearsed. I brushed it off, convincing myself I was overthinking. But an hour passed, then 2. Still no call, no update, no heading home. Just silence. Around 10:30, she finally walked in, a soft smile on her face. The smell of caramel and perfume following her like a story she didn't want to tell. "Hey," she said, tossing her purse on the chair. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was crazy." Her tone was light, casual. Too casual. She kissed my cheek, but it felt different. Practiced, not affectionate. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah, of course," she said, avoiding my eyes. "Why?" "No reason," I said quietly. We sat together for a few minutes. She talked about work, deadlines, annoying clients, same old stories. But her energy was off. She looked distracted, like part of her mind was still somewhere else. When she laughed, it came a second late, like she had to remind herself to act normal. She went to bed early that night, saying she was exhausted. I stayed on the couch, staring at my phone screen, reading that same message over and over again. Just grabbing coffee with a friend? I wanted to believe her. God, I really did. But something in my gut whispered otherwise. A quiet voice that said this wasn't just coffee. It was the start of something darker. When I finally walked to the bedroom, she was already asleep, one arm over her pillow, peaceful and unbothered. But on the nightstand, half sticking out of her purse, was a receipt. Folded, crumpled, from a place I didn't recognize. A restaurant, not a cafe. I didn't touch it that night, but I stared at it for a long time. That small white slip of paper glowing under the lamp, like the first crack in something I thought was unbreakable. The next morning, Amelia moved through the apartment like nothing had happened. She hummed softly while making coffee, hair tied in a messy bun, her favorite oversized sweater hanging loose on her shoulder. If someone had walked in at that moment, they'd think we were a happy couple living an ordinary morning. But I wasn't watching the routine. I was studying the details. "Morning," I said, pretending to scroll through my phone. She smiled, quick, almost forced. "Morning, babe. You want coffee?" "Sure," I replied, observing her hands. Usually she'd pour my cup first. Today she didn't. When she handed me my mug, her phone buzzed on the counter. Single vibration, one new message. She glanced at it, too fast, too defensive, and flipped it face down before walking away. That tiny motion told me everything her words didn't. The rest of the day moved like a slow rehearsal of lies. She texted less. She laughed at nothing. And when she did talk, her stories didn't add up. She said she had lunch at work, but her card statement later showed a charge from somewhere called the Lantern Bistro. I knew that name. It wasn't a coffee shop. It was an expensive restaurant downtown, the kind you only visit for special occasions. Or someone special. I told myself I wasn't going to snoop. I hated the idea of it, but once a seed of doubt is planted, it grows in silence, rooting itself in every unanswered question. That evening, she got another text. She smiled at it, small, secretive, and locked her screen instantly. I caught the reflection in the microwave door. The contact name was blurred, but the emoji next to it wasn't. A single red heart. When she noticed me looking, she tucked her phone away. "What?" she asked, pretending confusion. "Nothing," I said. "Just thought you looked happy." Her laugh was too quick. "Oh, please, it's just work stuff." I nodded, but inside something cold started forming. That night, when she went to shower, I picked up her purse. Not to spy, not yet. I just wanted to confirm what my instincts already screamed. The same folded receipt was still there, slightly torn at the edge. I unfolded it carefully. The Lantern Bistro, table for two. A bottle of Merlot. 2 entrees, dessert. Time, 8:37 p.m. Date, yesterday. I stood there, heart pounding, staring at proof so small yet so powerful. That tiny piece of paper held the truth she wouldn't dare say out loud. When she came out of the shower, steam following her, she smiled softly, pretending nothing was wrong. "Movie night?" she asked, like nothing had changed. "Sure," I said, slipping the receipt back in her purse. I sat beside her during the movie, pretending to laugh, pretending to care. But in my head, I was already building a plan, calm, quiet, unshakable. Because if she thought it was just coffee, then I was about to show her what just evidence could do. The next day began like any other, but for me, everything had changed. The receipt from the Lantern Bistro burned in my mind like a secret I couldn't unsee. It was sitting quietly in her purse again, folded neatly as if it didn't hold the power to destroy everything we'd built together. Amelia moved around the apartment in that same casual rhythm, phone in one hand, coffee mug in the other, soft smile like she lived in a world where nothing had gone wrong. But to me, every movement felt staged now, every laugh rehearsed, every glance calculated. I decided not to confront her. Not yet. I wanted the truth, not a story rehearsed in panic. I wanted to see who she really was when she didn't know I already knew. "Busy day today?" I asked as she adjusted her scarf in the mirror. She smiled. "Oh, super busy. I've got a meeting at noon, then coffee with Emily." That name hit me like static. Emily, her best friend. The one she always used as a cover for late nights. I nodded slowly. "Tell her I said hi." "I will," she replied with a quick kiss and a smile that no longer reached her eyes. After she left, I opened my laptop. I typed the Lantern Bistro into the search bar. The restaurant's website loaded. Romantic lighting, candle-lit tables. A reservation system that allowed guests to confirm by name. I clicked on Contact Us and felt my pulse quicken. It was a long shot, but I had to try. I called the number. "Good afternoon, Lantern Bistro," a polite female voice said. "Hi," I replied calmly. "I was there last night, and I think my card might have been double charged. Could you confirm the name on the reservation for table 12? "One moment, please," she said. A few clicks later, her voice returned. Yes, that was under Amelia Hart. It felt like a punch to the chest. Even though I knew it, hearing her name from a stranger confirmed everything. She hadn't just lied, she'd planned it. I thanked the hostess and hung up, my hands trembling slightly. Then I sat there for a while, staring at the faint glow of my laptop screen, feeling the quiet kind of anger that doesn't explode. It hardens. By the time Amelia came home that evening, I'd calmed down completely. She walked in with a smile and 2 takeout coffees. "Thought I'd surprise you," she said sweetly. Her tone dripped with normalcy. "Thanks," I said, taking a sip. "How's Emily?" Her hand froze just slightly on the cup lid, half a second too long. "Oh, she's good," she said quickly. "She's thinking about changing jobs." "Really?" I smiled. "That's weird. I ran into her brother today. He said she's out of town visiting family." Her face went pale. A small crack formed in her perfect performance. "Oh," she said, forcing a laugh. "Yeah, I meant..." Before she left. "We caught up earlier in the week." I nodded slowly. "Of course." The silence that followed was thick, not the comfortable kind we used to share, but the kind that hums before a storm. That night, when she fell asleep, I opened my phone and took a picture of the receipt. I also saved screenshots of her texts, her call logs, and even her social media check-ins. Piece by piece, I was gathering the truth she tried to bury, because if she wanted to act like it was just coffee, then I'd let her. For now. Soon. That one receipt would expose every lie she'd built around it. And I'd make sure she realized that truth, once uncovered, never goes back to sleep. The days that followed were strange. Amelia was warm again, overly warm. Suddenly she had time for me. Asked about my work, cooked dinner, even suggested a movie night. If I hadn't known better, I might have thought we were finding our rhythm again. But when people start overcompensating, it's never love. It's guilt trying to look normal. I played along, smiled when she smiled, laughed when she laughed. But inside, I was memorizing every inconsistency. The way she flinched when her phone buzzed. The way she tilted the screen away from me. The way she said good night before I even turned off the lights. Like she couldn't wait for the conversation to end. It's strange how love and suspicion can exist in the same room. You share a couch, a blanket, a life, but your mind starts cataloging lies like evidence in a case. And the more I watched her, the clearer it became. Amelia wasn't who I thought she was anymore. Or maybe she never had been. On Thursday, she mentioned another coffee after work. Same time, same tone, same lie. I nodded, keeping my voice steady. No problem. Drive safe. She blinked, surprised at how calm I sounded. That calmness scared her more than anger ever could, because silence means control, and she could feel she was losing it. While she was out, I did what I promised myself I wouldn't. I checked her laptop. Her social media tabs were open. One of them was a private chat, not with a coworker, not with Emily, with someone named Liam. The messages were subtle, careful, but not careful enough. Liam, same spot tonight? Amelia, yeah, just coffee. Liam, you know I don't like coffee. Amelia, then I guess we'll need wine again. I stared at those words for a long time. It wasn't heartbreak I felt, it was clarity. The kind that doesn't burn, but freezes everything it touches. That's when I realized I didn't want to fight anymore. I wanted proof. I printed the messages, placed the receipt beside them. And then I waited. When she came home, I greeted her the same way I always did. Hey, how was your coffee? She smiled, dropping her purse. Good, we stayed longer than planned. I figured, I said softly. The Lantern Bistro usually takes its time with dessert. Her eyes flicked up. Shock first, then panic, then that hollow expression people wear when they're caught. I could see her rehearsing an excuse, a new lie, anything. But I didn't give her the chance. I stood, handed her the receipt, and turned toward the door. Henry, she said, voice trembling. Please, it's not what you think. Then what is it, Amelia? I asked quietly. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. For once, she had no story ready. And for me, that silence was enough. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just looked at her and said, I believe you once said it was just coffee. Then I left the apartment, leaving her standing there, small, shaking, surrounded by the truth she'd tried to hide. The confrontation was done. But my revenge, that was only just beginning. I didn't go home that night. I needed distance, not to clear my head, but to make sure my emotions didn't ruin the precision of what I was about to do. Revenge, after all, only works when it's calm. Anger ruins the art. By the next morning, Amelia's calls had piled up. 12 missed calls, 5 voicemails, 16 texts. Every message was the same broken rhythm. Please talk to me. You're misunderstanding. It meant nothing. But I wasn't ready to talk. I was ready to watch her fall into her own lie. At noon, I sent her one text back. Dinner tonight? Let's talk. Her reply came instantly, like guilt had been waiting for forgiveness. Yes, please. Same place? Same place. The Lantern Bistro. Where it all started. When I arrived, I was early. I wanted to see her walk in before she saw me. I sat in the corner, the same table number as her receipt. Table 12. The waitress recognized the name immediately. Reservation for Amelia Hart, right? She asked. I smiled slightly. That's the one. A few minutes later, she appeared. Hair perfect, makeup soft, wearing that blue dress she once called her peace offering. She smiled carefully when she saw me. Henry, she said, her voice almost trembling. I'm so glad you agreed to talk. I gestured to the seat. Of course. Let's be honest, right? We ordered wine. The same Merlot from her receipt. When the waiter poured it, his face lit up. Oh, you two were here last week, right? Table 12 again. Nice to see you back. Her face went white. She stammered, Oh, no, you must be mistaken. The waiter frowned slightly. You left quite a tip. Hard to forget. Then he walked away, leaving silence that could have cracked glass. Amelia looked at me, eyes wide, searching for any chance to rewrite the story. Henry, it's not what it looks like, she whispered. I leaned forward, calm as ever. Amelia, you said it was just coffee. Her hands trembled around her glass. It was a mistake, one mistake. One mistake you planned, dressed up for, and paid for with his card? I asked quietly. Her lips parted. She wanted to lie but couldn't find the air to do it. Her eyes glistened and she looked away. I didn't mean for you to find out like this. That's the thing about truth, I said softly. It doesn't ask permission. For the rest of dinner, I let her talk, excuses, tears, apologies that sounded more like rehearsed lines than remorse. When the check came, I smiled at the waiter. Put it under Liam's name. I'm sure they'll remember him. The waiter hesitated but nodded. Amelia's jaw dropped. You didn't, she whispered. Oh, I did, I said. I just wanted to return the favor. After all, you two seem to enjoy dinner here. I stood up, tossed a few bills on the table, and looked down at her one last time. You wanted to play games with honesty, Amelia. Now you'll see how badly truth plays back. As I walked out, I didn't look back. The image of her sitting there, eyes red, pretending to be the victim, was enough. But what she didn't know yet was that I wasn't done. The dinner was only the beginning of something much bigger. Because sometimes, to truly expose a lie, you don't destroy it in private. You let it unravel in public. The night after the dinner, Amelia didn't come home. No calls, no messages, nothing. For the first time in 2 years, I slept through the night without waiting for her to return. And when I woke up, there was no pit in my stomach, just an eerie calm, the kind that follows a storm that hasn't quite finished. By noon, she finally texted. I'm sorry, Henry, please, I need to explain. I can't lose you like this. I stared at the message for a full minute before replying. Then come home. We'll talk. She arrived an hour later, pale, anxious, and dressed like she hadn't slept. Her eyes were swollen, and her voice trembled. Henry, she started. I never wanted this to happen. I didn't mean to hurt you. Then why did you? I asked quietly. She swallowed hard. It started as nothing. Just coffee, really. We'd talk about work, about life. He listened, and I felt like someone finally understood me again. Someone who wasn't me. Her voice cracked. You'd been distant. We both were. I made a mistake. Mistake? I repeated, keeping my tone calm. You lied, Amelia, repeatedly. You built a routine around it. That's not a mistake. That's maintenance. Tears welled in her eyes. I was scared to tell you. I thought if I ended it, it would all go away. And did it? She looked down, shaking. No, he wanted more. I tried to stop it, but you didn't, I said. You went back. The silence between us stretched. She tried to move closer, but I stepped back. I love you, Henry, she whispered. I never stopped. I almost laughed. You love the comfort, Amelia. You love the attention, the safety. But not me, not when it mattered. Her tears finally broke through. Please, I'll do anything. I'll quit my job, I'll block him, I raised a hand. Stop, I'm not here to negotiate. I just wanted to hear you admit it. Her eyes widened. What do you mean? I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I tapped once and set it on the counter. The recording app still running. Her voice filled the space, echoing her own confession. It started as nothing. Just coffee. I made a mistake. I lied. She froze, realization spreading across her face. Henry, you recorded me? I nodded slowly. You're right, Amelia. I was distant, but not careless. I learned long ago that people don't tell the truth until they think you've already moved on. Her breath caught. What are you going to do with that? That depends, I said evenly. On whether you keep lying. She looked desperate now. You can't destroy me over this. Destroy you, I said softly. No, Amelia. I'm not going to destroy you. I'm going to let you destroy yourself. I turned toward the door. She grabbed my arm. Please, Henry, don't do this. I'll fix it. You can't fix what you broke with coffee and lies. I left her standing there, shaking and the recording still playing in the background. Her own voice filling the apartment like a ghost she couldn't escape. That night, I backed up every file, every message, every piece of proof to the cloud. And I knew exactly where I'd send it next, because Amelia hadn't told me everything. But I already knew who Liam really was, and his world was about to crumble with hers. Liam wasn't just some random man. He was Amelia's senior manager, the kind of person who loved to talk about ethics in meetings while secretly bending every rule behind closed doors. The moment I realized who he was, everything clicked. The expensive restaurant, the secrecy, the sudden late work nights. They weren't careful because they were smart. They were careless because they thought they'd never get caught. I spent the next morning organizing everything. Receipts, messages, screenshots, the audio recording, each one carefully labeled with timestamps. When I was done, I had a neat little file titled, "Not Just Coffee, HR Copy." I wasn't angry anymore, I was patient. Patience makes revenge clean. At 9 a.m., I called Amelia's office. "Hi, this is Henry Ward. I have some information regarding a possible violation of company conduct involving Amelia Hart and her manager, Liam Brooks." The HR officer on the line went silent for a moment. "Could you send us the details, Mr. Ward?" "With pleasure," I said. By noon, I received a reply, short and professional. "Thank you for your cooperation. We'll handle it internally." Amelia had no idea yet. She texted me around lunchtime. "Can we please talk? I feel like everything's falling apart." I smiled faintly, typing back, "Give it a day. Everything will make sense soon." That evening, she came home looking hollow. Her mascara was smudged, and her phone buzzed constantly. "Henry," she said weakly, "they called me into HR today." I didn't react. "Oh?" She nodded, panic trembling in her voice. "They knew everything. The restaurant, the messages, even the dates. They said they'd have to launch a formal review." I tilted my head, pretending confusion. "Weird coincidence." She stared at me, tears welling up again. "You didn't, Henry, please tell me you didn't send that." I looked her in the eye and said, calm and cold, "You said it was just coffee. Maybe HR wants to see the receipt too." Her lips quivered. "You're ruining me." "No," I said softly. "You did that yourself." Her phone buzzed again, another message, this time from Liam. I caught a glimpse of it before she turned it over. "They suspended me." "What did you tell them?" Her face drained of color. She didn't answer. Instead, she walked to the couch and sat down, staring into nothing. All her words, all her clever excuses, gone. "I didn't think it would go this far," she whispered. "I thought you loved me." "I did," I said. "But love dies when trust does, and you buried it under a dinner receipt." She started crying, her sobs soft at first, then louder, desperate, but I didn't move. I'd already cried my share, silently, the night I found that proof. Later, as I packed a small bag to leave for a few days, she looked up through red eyes. "Where are you going?" "Somewhere peaceful," I said. "You should do the same. Maybe far away from the company that's about to fire you." I left the apartment key on the counter next to her phone. As I walked out, my phone buzzed once. An email notification. From HR Department subject, follow-up, case closed. Message: "Mr. Ward, thank you for your report. Mr. Brooks's employment has been terminated, and Ms. Hart is being transferred pending review." I stood outside the apartment looking up at the windows where I once saw her silhouette waiting for me. Now, there was only darkness. And for the first time, that darkness didn't hurt. It felt fair, because the truth doesn't destroy people. It only exposes who they really are. For the first few days after her exposure, the apartment was silent. The kind of silence that isn't peaceful but haunted. Amelia barely spoke. The girl who once filled rooms with laughter now moved like a ghost, lost inside her own mess. Every corner of the apartment echoed with tension. Her phone kept lighting up, but she never answered. I knew who it was. HR, co-workers, maybe even Liam. All of them realizing their secret had become public property. I stayed calm. I still went to work, came home, made dinner, and existed like nothing happened. But inside, I was watching her unravel, one truth at a time. On the third evening, she finally broke the silence. Henry, she whispered, voice thin and trembling. They fired him, Liam. He lost his job. I didn't look up from my laptop. I know. Her eyes widened. You knew? They emailed me a courtesy update. HR's pretty efficient when they have evidence that strong. She pressed her hands to her temples. God, I can't believe this is happening. Oh, you can, I said, voice level. You just didn't believe you'd get caught. Tears streamed down her face again. I didn't mean for it to get this bad. That's the problem, Amelia. You didn't mean anything. You just did everything. She tried to touch my arm, but I pulled away. I lost everything, she said weakly. My job, my reputation. I met her gaze for a brief moment. You didn't lose me today. You lost me the night you lied. Her face crumpled. Please, can't we start over? I'll fix it, I swear. Fix what? I asked quietly. Your job? Your lies, or me? She fell silent, shoulders shaking as she cried into her hands. It should have felt satisfying. The justice, the karma, the ending of a painful story. But standing there, watching her drown in her own guilt, I didn't feel victory. I felt closure. Clean, sharp, irreversible. That night, I packed my things. Not in anger, just in decision. She watched me from the hallway, eyes swollen, voice small. Where will you go? Somewhere honest, I said, zipping my bag. When I reached the door, she whispered, You'll regret this one day, Henry. I stopped and turned slightly. No, I regret trusting you longer than I should have. I left the apartment without looking back. The next few weeks passed quietly. I got a new place, smaller, cleaner, peaceful. A few coworkers invited me out, and slowly I learned what peace without suspicion felt like. Then one morning I received a message from an unknown number. It was Amelia. I moved out of the city. I'm sorry for everything. Don't expect forgiveness, but I hope one day you'll remember the good parts. I typed back once and deleted the message before sending. Some stories don't need sequels. Some lessons don't need replies. That evening I passed by the Lantern Bistro. Different people sat where we once did, laughing, clinking glasses, unaware of the history those walls held. I ordered a coffee to go, stood outside under the soft glow of the streetlights and smiled. Just coffee, I murmured to myself. This time, for real. As I walked away, the sound of rain started, soft, cleansing, almost forgiving. But forgiveness wasn't what I wanted anymore. I'd learned something better. The truth doesn't hurt when it's exposed. It hurts when it's ignored. And I'd finally stopped ignoring mine. Months passed. Seasons changed, but the memory of Amelia's voice, that trembling tone when she said it was just coffee, still lingered in the back of my mind like a scar that had healed. But not faded. I'd rebuilt my life quietly. New apartment. New morning routine. New peace. I'd stopped checking her social media, stopped asking mutual friends about her. But somehow the universe loves closure, even when you don't ask for it. One Sunday morning, as I sat at a cafe sketching a logo for a client, I heard a familiar laugh, faint, nervous, but recognizable. When I turned, she was there. Amelia. She stood at the counter ordering, her hair shorter, her eyes duller. She looked smaller, not in size, but in spirit. Like life had been trimming away at her confidence. The man behind her wasn't Liam. He was older, quiet, distant, maybe a coworker, maybe a rebound, maybe just someone trying to fill the silence she once feared. She didn't see me. And for a moment I just watched. Not out of anger, not out of nostalgia, but curiosity. How did someone go from a confident liar to a quiet stranger? She turned to grab her drink and her eyes caught mine. The moment froze. Her lips parted slightly, eyes wide with recognition, guilt flashing for a second before she looked down. I gave her a small, polite nod. Nothing more. Not forgiveness, not warmth, just acknowledgement. She hesitated, then walked over. Henry, she said softly, you look good. Thanks, I replied calmly. You too? A small, awkward silence hung between us like two ghosts meeting in daylight. She glanced at the table at my sketchbook. You're still designing, she said. Always, I replied, another pause. Then she whispered, I heard you told HR everything. I lost a lot because of that. I looked at her evenly. No, Amelia. You lost because you lied. I just stopped covering for you. She nodded slowly, eyes glassy. I know. I've been trying to start over. That's good, I said, meaning it. Everyone deserves a fresh start, just not at the expense of someone else. Her lips trembled, but she didn't cry this time. Do you hate me? She asked quietly. I thought about it for a moment. The dinners, the laughter, the betrayal, the silence. Finally I said, no, I don't hate you, but I'll never trust you again, and that's worse. She nodded once, wiped a tear quickly, and walked away with her coffee. This time, for real. As I watched her leave, I realized something I hadn't understood before. Closure doesn't come from confrontation or revenge. It comes the moment you no longer need either. I smiled, packed my things, and left the cafe. The city felt lighter that day, not because I'd won, but because I'd finally let go of the need to. And as I walked past a coffee shop window, my reflection caught the sunlight just right. Peaceful, quiet, unbothered. Exactly the man Amelia never thought I'd become. 6 months later, I'd almost forgotten what her voice sounded like. The city had changed, or maybe I had. Mornings were quieter now. No rushed calls, no half-truths over breakfast. No pretending everything was fine. Just me, my sketchbook, and the familiar comfort of black coffee. Life had a rhythm again, slow, honest, peaceful. The kind of peace that doesn't shout, the kind that comes only after the noise has burned itself out. One afternoon, while cleaning my desk, I found it. That same folded receipt from the Lantern Bistro. The ink had faded a little, but the words were still there. 2 entrees, 1 bottle of wine, table for 2. It didn't sting anymore. It just reminded me that I survived something I once thought would break me. I smiled faintly and slipped the receipt into an envelope. On the front, I wrote in small, even letters, "For closure." Then I dropped it into a drawer, closed it, and walked away. That night, I met my friend Lucas at our favorite cafe, the one where I'd written half my best ideas and maybe, unintentionally, healed. He noticed I was quieter than usual, still thinking about her. He asked. I laughed softly. Not really. Just thinking about how one lie can teach you more than a lifetime of honesty ever could. He nodded. You ever think of forgiving her? I already did, I said. I just never told her. As we sat there, the barista placed 2 cups on the table. Steam curled up like ghosts escaping a story that had finally ended. Outside, rain began to fall. Gentle, rhythmic, cleansing. I looked out the window, remembering everything. The text that started it all. The receipt that proved the truth. The calm revenge that ended it. And the silence that followed. Sometimes revenge isn't about destruction. It's about control. The power to walk away knowing you could have burned everything, but chose peace instead. I took a slow sip of my coffee, watching the raindrops race down the glass. Lucas asked, "What's next for you?" I smiled. Something simple. Something real. Maybe love again, but this time without lies. As I got up to leave, I glanced once more at my cup and chuckled under my breath. Just coffee, I murmured. This time for real. And with that, I stepped outside into the rain. No bitterness, no regret. Just the quiet satisfaction of a man who'd seen the truth, survived it, and learned to enjoy peace one sip at a time. The end.